Welcome back to You+You podcast. I am your host, Markia. In this special episode, we're going to embark on a heartfelt journey into the concept of reparenting yourself. Before we embark on this journey, I want you to really pause and I want you to go and get a notebook, a pen or pencil, whatever you choose to write with, or even your tablet to take notes. Because I'm going to ask you some questions and we're going to pause throughout this episode, and we're really going to take a deep look at this concept of reparenting and how that looks for you. And so it's important that you are able to write those things down because you're going to be exploring a lot. Now, whether if this concept of reparenting is new to you, or maybe you've already been on this journey of reparenting or had this concept and idea in your mind, but you weren't really for sure on how to define it or what it looks like for you, and you needed some guidance. Well, in this episode, and actually 2 other episodes after this, I'm going to really provide you with some insights and really understanding and defining what reparenting should look like for you, right? And now these are just ideas. It may be a little bit different for you, but we want to at least build a foundation as we're on this journey. So for me, about 2 years ago, I had gotten to this place where I realized that I needed to be reparented. Now, obviously, as an adult, to seek reparenting from your parents may not be ideal. But for me, I understood that in order for me to get the things that I needed for myself, I had to be open to reparenting little Markia. Now, what did that look like for me? I had to actually define that and solidify what that meant to me and what I needed in that. And so I actually, because I journal entry often, took some time to really go inward and ask myself, if I was the parent of little Markia, how would I parent her? And then I went from there. I looked at my needs, my wants. I looked at who I was as a child. And so in my quiet time, I kept seeing little Markia playing in the yard. I kept going back to this particular address. And I'm like, what does that mean? Well, I believe that that was the beginning of the time where I began to understand that there was a lack there in my parenting. There was a lack there with my needs being met as a child. So I had to go back to that place and work from there. So let's define what reparenting means. Reparenting yourself involves taking on the role of a nurturing and supportive parent for your own inner child. And I'm going to repeat that because I really need for you to get this. Reparenting yourself involves taking on the role of a nurturing and supportive parent for your own inner child. So it's about recognizing and addressing the unmet needs, wounds, unhealthy patterns, and behaviors from your past to foster healing and growth. Before we can truly do that, there's a few steps that we need to take. There was a few steps that I needed to take. And I'm really hoping that these steps help you. Number 1, you really need to embrace self-nurturing. What I mean by this is when we think about the nurturing side of a parent, oftentimes we think about the nurturing of a mother or a grandmother. Fathers also have a very special way of nurturing as well. But when you think about your own self-nurturing, it's really about practicing self-care. Now, this self-care concept is not brand new. The self-love concept is not brand new. It may be brand new to you when it relates to you actually taking on those actions. However, the idea around these concepts are not brand new. For you, you want to practice self-care and self-love by engaging in activities that make you feel cherished and valued. Now we're going to pause there. My question to you is, what makes you feel cherished and valued? Write that question down. What makes me feel cherished and valued? Next, you're going to create a self-care routine that includes things that you enjoy and that rejuvenates you. What is that self-care routine? What does that look like for you? It is different for everyone. What do you truly enjoy? What lights you up inside? It could be the most simplest things, like maybe coloring in a coloring book, a crossword puzzle. Think about what that thing is and ask yourself, what do I enjoy? Or what did I enjoy as a kid that lit me up, that caused excitement within me? That's the next question. Now, you want to recognize and address unmet needs, your unmet needs. You want to identify the areas where your needs were not met in your childhood, and then actively seek ways to fulfill those needs now. Next question is this, and this is what you're going to ask yourself. What were and are my unmet needs? What was that as a child, and what is it now? Because oftentimes, if that unmet need or those unmet needs were not filled, or those voids were not filled, or those unmet needs were not met, that carries on into adulthood. And you carry those unmet needs. And then you put pressure on others, be it your mate, your friends, whomever, to meet those unmet needs. But in this case, you are going to meet those unmet needs, because remember, you are reparenting yourself. So what were those unmet needs? And then understand that it is okay for you to seek help and support if you should need it. But really, in this case, you are supporting yourself. And sometimes we do need that extra outside of ourselves to help us. But really, what I want you to focus on at this moment is you. You are the parent, reparenting yourself. Number 3, you're going to affirm your worth. You're going to use positive affirmations to reinforce your self-worth and self-esteem. How are you going to do that? So what positive affirmations would help reinforce your self-worth and self-esteem? That's another question. And then you're going to remind yourself daily that you are deserving of love, care, and respect. Now, this current process, just the few steps that I've given you thus far, the few questions that I've asked so far, really emphasizes that reparenting is a transformative process that empowers you to take control of your own emotional well-being and personal development. Now we're going to move into this inner child concept, because I need for you to understand what that also means. So I want you to write down inner child concept. Our inner child represents the vulnerable and innocent part of ourselves, carrying both positive and negative experiences from our childhood. Now, reparenting helps us to reconnect with and heal our inner child. So how are we going to reconnect with our inner child? How are you going to reconnect with your inner child? You're going to do this by engaging in activities that you enjoy as a child. I mentioned that just a little bit ago, because engaging in these particular activities helps for you to reconnect with that inner child, such as drawing, maybe coloring in a coloring book. I said that already. Playing particular games, or maybe spending time outdoors. Think about it. If you were the type of child like I was, I loved being outside. Be it if it was riding my bike, if it was playing in the dirt, if it was playing in my backyard, if it was gathering leaves in the fall and jumping into the leaves from my porch. Climbing trees. I did that. I loved running in the streets, racing other kids, playing on the playground, just being free. That was my sense of freedom. And so for me, when I had to learn how to reconnect with that inner child, I had to ask myself, what did I love doing as a child? And I wrote those things down. And guess what I do now? I play outdoors as much as I can. I have multiple bikes, from a mountain bike to road bike to a gravel bike, because I love cycling. I did as a child. I do as an adult. I am now into gardening and plants. You see the plants behind me, because those are the things that I enjoyed doing as a child, playing in the dirt, being grounded. I have a love for hiking, so I hike, I fish, I do a lot of outdoor activities. I camp, because it satisfies and feeds and fuels this inner child, this excitement of freedom and liberation to be outside and to exert energy, to play. So think about that. The other thing that I do enjoy doing is painting, because I'm a creative person. So I allow my creativity and my imagination to go uninhibited. That's another way that I connect with my inner child. I write poetry, because as a teenager, I wrote rhymes and raps and things like that. And so poetry is another way. Now, all of these things are also therapy for me. So not only am I reconnecting with little Markia, I am healing her. I am healing her. I'm allowing her to heal in this process of play and engaging in things that I enjoyed as a child. The next thing is you have to understand your emotional triggers. write that down. What are my emotional triggers? And then you're going to pay attention to situations that trigger strong emotional responses. And then you're going to reflect on how they relate to your childhood experiences. I talk about writing in your journal. I've talked about that in multiple episodes, in this episode as well. I am one to write in my journal every day, sometimes multiple times a day. It helps for me to see myself, to understand myself, to be brutally honest, transparent with myself. So, journaling about these triggers, it's going to help you gain insight into your inner child's needs and emotions so that you're able to meet that and nurture it and love it. And you're going to do this by creating a safe environment for yourself. And the other word that I was going to say is soft. A soft and safe environment, a soft place to land, as well as a safe place to be. You're going to create a safe and comforting space in your home where you can relax and feel secure. So what I've done is every room in my home is a safe and comfortable environment and space for me. I've done this intentionally with the way that my color scheme is, to my plants, to a variety of different things, so that I can feel safe and secure within my own space. For you, it just may be a room, and that's okay. You're going to create that safe space for you. And then the other thing is, it is important that you surround yourself with supportive people who respect your boundaries and your needs, because this is a very pivotal place for you right now. And having the support system to understand this particular journey will help for you to successfully maneuver through it. Now, if you don't have that support system, those supportive people, no worries, because really it's about you reparenting yourself. So you become this support system. You become that for yourself. You create those boundaries for yourself and then meet your needs. Now, next we're going to talk about why it's important. Now listen, and all of the other steps provided to you, I'm sure it's provided you a broader perspective and picture on why reparenting yourself is important, but I really want to get a bit deeper. I want you to write this question down. Why is reparenting myself important? Reparenting yourself can break destructive patterns, improve self-esteem, and then it also cultivates a healthier relationship with yourself and others. It empowers you to meet your own needs and provide the care and support you have missed in your childhood. Now we're going to talk about breaking destructive patterns and what that may look like. So the next question that I want to ask for you to write down is, what are my destructive patterns? When you think about destructive, I'm sure you probably think of this catastrophic type of destructiveness, but it honestly may not even be as catastrophic as you may think or it may be just that. It may be catastrophic, right? So write down again, what are my destructive patterns? Because you want to identify these negative patterns in your life that stem from unresolved childhood issues. And then you want to actively work to change those patterns. So I'll use myself as an example. One of my destructive patterns was I became sexually active very early. And that carried on. And not necessarily because I slept with a lot of men, but whoever I was with at that time, the behavior in that, right? Because that unmet need, I used sex to fill that void. I'm practicing celibacy now. So that's a way of me actively changing that negative pattern. Because if I would have not checked it, it could have become extremely destructive. Extremely destructive. But I had to realize some things and will it in. And ask myself, how could I now change this behavior? What do I need to do? So I decided that celibacy was a way for me to make some positive changes around that. How I viewed sex, how I viewed men. I needed to rewire those patterns. Another way is that you can seek therapy or counseling to gain tools and strategies for breaking these patterns. That's the additional help and support if you need it. Now, we want to boost the self-esteem. And how do we do that? By engaging in the activities that build your confidence and provide you a sense of accomplishment. So I want to ask you this, because building your self-esteem, that happens in childhood, right? When we are engaged in certain activities, sports, or maybe playing the piano, whatever that childhood activity where you are able to build that confidence within yourself. Maybe winning the spelling bee or whatever it may be, where you are rewarded for something that you are very good at. Think about that. Or maybe it's just the opposite. Maybe you really weren't as good at anything as a child, but as an adult, you've accomplished some things. And it doesn't have to be anything huge. So for me, I didn't complete my bachelor's degree until I was in my 30s because I became a mother and a wife at a very young age. I just didn't have the time to do so. And then I went through a divorce and became a single parent and had to then complete my education in order to make sure that I was able to financially support myself and my children. And going back to school, being a single parent of 3 with no support system was a huge task for me because I had to work full time. I went to school in the evening, but I still had to be a parent. I still had to run my household. I still had to be responsible, right? I still had all of these parental responsibilities on top of. But when I completed, it was a huge accomplishment. But during that journey, it was also a huge accomplishment because I was on the dean's list. And, I graduated actually with a great GPA. And so I'm proud of myself for doing that. And then other things after that that I wanted to accomplish. Writing books and performing poetry in front of large groups of people and so forth and so on. Raising my children, right? Now all of my children are adults. So I look back on the things that I did accomplish. That builds a lot of confidence. Even if during the time I was unsure that I was going to be successful, right? But I kept going. But then looking back at the accomplishments, I'm like, wow, I did that. I'm so proud of myself. And so I want you to do the same. It may not have been going back to school. It may not have been maybe raising children as a, single parent, whatever it may be for you. Just look back and then at those accomplishments and congratulate yourself, no matter how small or large. It's about you being that support system for yourself, because now we're in the midst of building the self-esteem. You've already acknowledged the fact of any destructive behaviors and patterns. Now it's about congratulating yourself, building your self-esteem as you're on this journey. You're going to celebrate your achievements, again, no matter how small. And then you're going to acknowledge your progress. So as you're going through this process of reparenting, you're going to acknowledge your progress, no matter how small. Remember, Rome was not built overnight. It was built brick by brick, bit by bit. Every small accomplishment should be celebrated, period, and end of story. All right? So in today's episode, we went through understanding what reparenting yourself looks like. And I've provided you with some steps and questions that now you can take and begin to answer and dig a bit more deep into yourself on this reparenting process, right? And so I want to thank you for joining me, because reparenting yourself is a huge thing. It's a big deal. We've uncovered the foundation of this powerful concept of reparenting and how important it is in our lives to do so, in your life and my life. But listen, our journey doesn't end here, because in my next episode, I'm going to dive even deeper into the profound benefits of reparenting and what it brings, from emotional healing to personal growth. So listen, I want you to stay tuned, because I have some more for you. And I want you to continue this journey and continue building this very strong foundation for yourself. Because I want you to understand that at the end of the day, it is you plus you. It will always equal you, because you are the common denominator in your life. So I want you to stay tuned as we continue on this transformative adventure together in reparenting ourselves. Until next Thursday, I want you to be the best parent for yourself as you can possibly be, because it is you plus you that equals you. Again, you are the common denominator in your life. I am your host, Markia, and this is You+You podcast. Until next Thursday, be blessed.